I do not see gay rights being achieved in Ukraine on any level if Russia wins the war. And the reason why is in Ukraine, there's a social shift being moved. We're seeing queer people get in higher and higher positions in public life. We're seeing the discussion of gay marriage be finally discussed by the vast majority of people, and well, by not the vast majority, it's like 57%, by the majority of people in a more positive and positive manner. We're seeing queer people get involved in the military. They're making progress, and Russia is not. They aren't. If anything, they're going backwards with these gay propaganda laws and how they've targeted the queer community. So my opinion is, if Ukraine loses the war, all that possible progress is going to be completely thrown in the air. The Azov battalion.
I've heard different stories. You're saying that. I've heard different numbers.
I've met Azov guys. I've met them before. They don't scare me nearly as much as the right sector, which gets no heat in this country. They have these scary ass tattoos and fucking. I've heard like passing by their office building in Lviv, which is actually across the street is a kebab shop, which is fucking hilarious. I've like heard songs that's like that's a far right. I'm pretty sure that's like an actual fascist song. They scare me a lot more. They get none of the attention because they don't have the same aesthetics of fascism. But those people don't represent the majority of Ukrainians. Their political party loses every single election. Azov Battalion political party, they lose every single election. The far right have gone from like getting like 15 to 20% of the vote down to getting 2% of the vote with no seats in government. I think they have 1 out of 450 seats. 1 out of 450 seats. I think Ukraine's heading in the right direction the more they move towards the West. And so I encourage it. And that's what the majority of Ukrainians want. Good to have you all here. Thank you all for taking your Friday to come on to my show. See you all later. Alex Stein, if you want, I'll bring you to the front lines of Ukraine. You can look at it all with me, okay? I'll give you
I will. Hey, but you never showed me the American flag in Ukraine. Please send me that when you get a chance.
I'll send it to you, absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, I can show you it on the patches of Ukrainian soldiers.
I'm talking about from the citizens, but
what do you call? What do you call a soldier? They're still citizens. They get.
I mean, honestly, you can show me the Nazi patches too, and then gay marriage isn't legal in Ukraine. You understand that, right?
Yeah, gay marriage wasn't legal in Poland. Would have supported them against the Nazi invasion.
No, I'm just saying. So
honest payment.
You support a place that doesn't believe in your right to get married. That's real smart, Dylan.
Of course I would. Of course. Wait. Let me ask you a question. Do you think if like China invaded America in 2014, I would have been like, well, they don't have gay marriage, so I guess all the people in California just get to blow the fuck up and die. Like, I mean, you can't help a queer person if they're dead, right? If they get blown up.
My point being is that Ukraine does not show the same gratitude. We're giving them $80 billion, and every single place I turn, I see a Ukrainian flag. That's not the same. There's not an American flag every single corner of the Ukraine. And all the people during the Gay Pride Parade that have the Ukrainian flag waving, it's a big symbol of the Gay Pride Parade video that I saw. I haven't seen one instance of gay marriage being legal in the Ukraine. Well, so it seems awfully hypocritical.
How can
in my
you have?
Opinion.
Well, you would need to legalize gay marriage to have any instances. You would, but I guess for me, like the polling
data doesn't exist.
Wait. America is one of the most favorably viewed nations by Ukrainians. All the polling data, I think it's like 80% of Ukrainians view America favorably. In fact, I believe it's 75% of Ukrainians who view Joe Biden favorably. He would win an election.
They should. We're giving them $80 billion. Could you imagine if they didn't like this?
So I would say that the polling data reflects them being grateful. And I have seen American flags around. In fact, I've seen people selling American flags in stalls in the corners of Lviv.
Post a picture. Post some pictures of it, please.
Okay, I'm happy to. Yeah.
Do you think Ukraine will ever get gay marriage if they win the war?
Absolutely.
Oh, you do? You think Zelensky, even though
let me tell you. Let me tell you something. In 2016, the polling for gay marriage in Ukraine was like around 30%. This year, the last polling data that's come out, it was about 57% of Ukrainians in favor of gay marriage. Now, there was an asterisk there, and that is it. With the exception of like adoption rights, that's a separate issue. But when you think of Ukraine being between Poland and Russia, two of the most well-known like homophobic countries in all of Europe and Asia, like that's pretty fucking good, and that's a lot of progress. 20% bumps is pretty big in my opinion.
It's still illegal, so you're just you're defending a place where you couldn't even live your lifestyle there legally.
I've met Ukrainians who are gay who are actually What do you mean?
You get married.
What do you mean I can't live my lifestyle?
Can you get married? Can you get married? You're a gay man, right, Dylan?
I'm queer. I'm like bisexual, homo.
I'm just saying, could you marry a man in the Ukraine right now?
No, I can't. So let me ask you, wait, Alex, if Russia invaded America in 2014, do you think I should have been like, fuck this shit, I don't give a fuck?
Why would I want Russia to? Why would I support Russia?
Listen to me. In 2014, there was no gay marriage in America. Do you think I should have been like, I don't care if the Russians slaughter civilians in California or in Arizona because I can't get married here? If we're all dead, then it's kind of impossible for gays to get married.
I don't think that's a fair comparison. I'm just saying you're in the
Why not?
Ukraine defending a country because we have the context of where you're at. You're trying to talk about a hypothetical. Right now, you are defending
dip out,
a country.
guys. I love
You're
you
in the
guys.
front-
I will
I'm
see
just
you
saying,
guys. I love you.
Yeah.
Bye,
in the
everybody.
front
Bye,
line.
bye, bye,
You're
bye.
right, Sam.
In the
Yeah,
front
I think
lines
the
of
rest
a
of us are gonna head
country,
out, or at least
you're
I am.
risking
See
your
y'all.
life,
See you,
Dylan.
Daniel.
Yeah.
You're risking your life
Absolutely.
for a country that's not showing you the same gratitude. That would not even let you marry your boyfriend. So I
What
just
would
think
you-
that's
what would you
awfully
say the- what
hypocritical.
would you say
I
the-
mean, you can say that's not.
Okay,
You can say that's
wait,
not hypocritical.
wait.
And you can give me hypotheticals.
Okay.
But I don't think that's fair.
How about not a hypothetical? 1944, D-Day. Black soldiers were arms in arms with other soldiers as they charged the beaches, even though black Americans didn't have the right to vote. Many of them got, wait, let me finish. Many of them got tattoos. VV, victory against fascism in Europe, victory against fascism and racism at home. And they went on, many of them, to actually, become civil rights leaders and lead the struggle for black people getting the right to vote. And there are Ukrainians, gay Ukrainians in the military who wear unicorn patches specifically to tell people this patch means I'm queer, I'm gay, and I'm fighting these fucking Russian orcs. And you want to know what? I think they're going to do the same thing.
It's funny. Well, Dylan, it's funny you bring that up. So how does the Ukrainian treat trans soldiers? Do they let them flee to Poland, or do they make them go fight? So do they recognize their sex?
I think that's bad, yeah.
Do Ukrainians recognize trans people?
Like their existence, or do you mean what do you mean by that?
Like if a male transitioning to a female, do they let them escape to Poland, or do they make them go fight?
They make them go fight.
Oh, so they don't recognize them as a woman. So you live in you're going there and risking your life in a country that doesn't even recognize trans people or accept gay people to get married. Go figure, bud. Good for you. I'm so happy that you're doing that. Because those are two keystone, I would say, issues of your life, and you're going there and risking your life for a country that doesn't even recognize those two things. So I just think that's awfully hypocritical.
How
Dylan.
is it okay? Now, I don't know, you could say that I'm overlooking my own personal interests to support this country because it's the greater good. You could say that, but that's not hypocrisy. You could just say that's stupid. These are two different arguments.
Okay, so that's stupid.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear.
Stupid. You're risking your life for a country that doesn't recognize trans people or gay marriage. That's stupid. You're stupid.
Should black soldiers have fought for America in World War I and World War II, even though they didn't have the right to vote?
Probably not. Probably not necessarily. No.
So would you call them stupid?
They probably shouldn't.
Would you call them stupid?
Yeah, because if they're going to risk their life, I don't think they should risk their life for a country that doesn't recognize them. Yeah, I would think that would be stupid if they're not recognizing the country. Why
do you think? Do you think?
I'm a conflict interventionist. I don't think we should go to war whatsoever. So the fact is, I'm just saying, think about that. You're out there risking your life right now, Dylan, for these two staunch things that doesn't recognize trans people and doesn't recognize gay marriage. So you can try to obviously play all the logic games
you can't have gay marriage.
You know what's facing reality.
You can't have gay marriage in Ukraine if there is no Ukraine. You couldn't have gay marriage in Poland if Poland's invaded and executed by the Nazis. You can't have gay marriage in America if America was invaded by Russia or China and taken over.
Well, the country you're defending, what about Ukraine last year? Last year, do they recognize trans people and did they recognize gay marriage last year when Ukraine was a country?
Well, they're still a country, but... No, they don't. They didn't.
Well, you're saying,
and I want them to change that.
Well, there you go.
But my whole life doesn't revolve.
Wait,
my whole life doesn't revolve around. Do you have gay marriage? No. Go fucking die. Like that's stupid. Like
you don't think that's how a lot of people feel here, and you don't think that
I'm sure. Wait, no. I'm sure that's how people. Let me be clear. I'm not the type of guy to hear. Wait. There's no abortion rights left in Texas. I hope every fucking Texan goes and die. When I hear a hurricane hitting Texas, I'm gonna clap and be happy. That's terrible.
I don't want people to die either.
That's a terrible way to think, and I don't think about that about countries either. That is the comparison. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't want people to die. You don't want people to die. What I'm saying is you're risking your life. I'm worried about you because I like you, Dylan. That's why I'm not trying to do this to make you feel bad. I'm just saying I think it looks awfully bad that you're out there risking your life for a country that does not represent trans people and does not represent the gay community. That's
I believe
you can say I'm a bad person for pointing that out.
There can be no queer liberation without national liberation. It will be impossible for you to be gay.
There was no queer liberation when they were liberated.
Let me finish.
There was no liberation.
Okay. You gotta let me. So I can't personally, right? I do not see gay rights being achieved in Ukraine on any level if Russia wins the war. And the reason why is in Ukraine, there's a social shift being moved. We're seeing queer people get in higher and higher positions in public life. We're seeing the discussion of gay marriage be finally discussed by the vast majority of people, and well, by not the vast majority, it's like 57%, by the majority of people in a more positive manner. We're seeing queer people get involved in the military. They're making progress, and Russia is not. They aren't. If anything, they're going backwards with these gay propaganda laws and how they've targeted the queer community. So my opinion is, if Ukraine loses the war, all that possible progress is going to be completely thrown in the air. It's the same thing like with Poland and Germany in the 1940s. You can't expect a queer Polish person to look at the eyes of the Nazi invaders and say, well, we don't have gay marriage in this country, or we're not treated well in this country, so fuck it, I hate Poland. They're going to say, look, at the end of the day, this boat is safer than that boat, so I want this boat to win, and so we can continue that progress. Black Americans made that determination in World War I, Black Americans made that determination in World War II, and queer people have made that determination in many other countries in the world before. It's not that crazy of an opinion.
Well, I just think when you look at Ukraine's culture and you look at the Azov Battalion, which is not mainly made up of Nazis, and then you look at the fact that they do not.
That's not true.
So there's no Nazis. There's no Nazi contingency of the Azov Battalion.
No, I'd say like 5 to 10% is probably the number.
Seems like a lot of Nazis.
Wait, let me ask you: do you think there's a difference between mainly made up of Nazis and 5 to 10%? The Azov Battalion.
I don't. I've heard different stories. You're saying that. I've heard different numbers.
I've met Azov guys. I've met them before. They don't scare me nearly as much as the right sector, which gets no heat in this country. They have these scary ass tattoos and fucking. I've heard like passing by their office building in Lviv, which is actually across the street is a kebab shop, which is fucking hilarious. I've like heard songs that's like, that's a far right. I'm pretty sure that's like an actual fascist song. They scare me a lot more. They get none of the attention because they don't have the same aesthetics of fascism. But those people don't represent the majority of Ukrainians. Their political party loses every single election. Azov Battalion political party, they lose every single election. The far right have gone from like getting like 15 to 20% of the vote down to getting 2% of the vote with no seats in government. I think they have 1 out of 450 seats. 1 out of 450 seats. I think Ukraine's heading in the right direction the more they move towards the West. And so I encourage it. And that's what the majority of Ukrainians want.
But at this moment, and when they were a country, and when they could have voted on it, they chose not to vote on it, and they still don't represent trans people today. So you say they're moving in the right direction,
yes.
But in the current war that they're fighting, they still do not recognize trans people, and I think that's disgusting. I want to stand up for the trans community. So
okay,
that's just,
I want them to. But the thing is, if we look at Bucha. If we look at what happened in all these massacres, if you look at the forced mass deportations the Russian government's doing of 1.9 million people, we look at the New Lines report, which is talking about the politicity that genocide is possible in Ukraine. When we look at all this evidence, and I think about queer Ukrainians, they, out of all the Ukrainian people, are the most vulnerable to Russian soldiers for good reason, because Russia,
I would agree.
That homophobia is deeply more entrenched in Russia. And so queer people are more than ever fighting for their survival now. And if you've been slaughtered in Bucha or Irpin or Cherniv or Sumy or any of these places you were killed by the Russian army, there's no getting gay marriage for you because you're fucking dead. And so my goal is to make it so Ukrainians stop dying, including the queer Ukrainians. I would say the same exact thing about the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. You think Afghanistan had gay marriage and I would have been like, oh, that's fucking wonderful, da da da. The problem is the Soviets fucking killed over 2.5 million people in Afghanistan. A lot of them ended up being gay just by mathematics. And so you can't get liberation if you're dead. And my main concern right now is the Ukrainians dying.
You think if Ukraine surrendered, do you think that Russia would still kill them?
Yes.
Do you think there would be a genocide?
I think they would still kill their political opponents. Which many of them are gay.
Well, in your theory, wouldn't that be good? The political opponents so then they'd have new politicians that would actually enact gay marriage and would give.
Do you think
economy?
The people that Russia has appointed in the south in places like Metyopol and other locations, do you think they're pro-gay or pro-trans?
No, but I don't think Ukraine is either, and that's why I don't want you to die over there in a war that this wouldn't represent.
Zelensky's government is much closer to it than anything the Russians could put in.
But he's not there. I mean,
no,
close.
He's not.
Look,
he's not. But that's
good for horseshoes and hand grenades. This is not. That's an actual war term.
This is the thing.
Close
though,
is
Alex.
not enough.
This is determination that all marginalized groups have had to make when they participate with politics, which is like, look, we have option A, which sucks, and option B, which sucks more. Guess we go with option A because I'd rather be alive than dead, right? That's what queer people have had to make up until 2015 and like really recent history. That's a determination that all queer people in the world have always had to make when they interact with politics, right? And so in this part of the world, like being queer has been very, very dangerous for a very long time. And I think adding bombs and destruction and mass executions to it only makes it 10 times more dangerous. And that's not even to mention the fact that Ukraine is making much more progress than Poland. They're making much more progress than most Yugoslav states. They're making much more progress than Russia. I think the more westward they go, the more likely we're going to see that progress. The more they go in with the EU, the more protections there's going to be for the LGBTQ plus community. That doesn't exist for BRICS or the Russian alliances or anything like that.
Well, and there's a term called close but no cigar. And so you can say they're trending in the right direction, but I would disagree with you because they won't even recognize trans people when it's 2022. They won't recognize gay marriage.
Do you really think that's not? But the thing
I
is,
really do think that's the
you're
case.
saying that from. Like,
I think that's part of their culture.
The thing
I
is,
think their
America.
culture is different.
I'm gonna say something that might get me in trouble with the left. America is much more progressive on LGBT issues than the vast majority of the rest of the world, and that is a fact, right? Would you agree with me on that? Would you agree with me on that?
We had that whole movie Euro Trip where they were talking about how Europe was full of sexual deviance, and it was the prudish Americans that actually settled the continent, right?
I'm 21. I'm not that old. This might be an old reference that I don't understand.
But it's an old movie. Wow, you never saw Euro Trip. It was a great movie.
Is
You're
it a good
too young.
movie?
Yeah.
When was it released?
It is. It actually is. Yeah. It's like a college kids or they're out of high school and they go on a European vacation.
Like, what, 2004?
Oh, it's like an American Pie type movie, kind of.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying it's in that genre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Dylan, I support you to be there. I'm just and listen, I'm just saying, and I'm not even saying don't do what you're doing. I just think it looks kind of bad for me that I don't think personally that we can agree to disagree. I don't think Ukraine is showing enough gratitude for American citizens and the money that we give them, considering that we have massive inflation.
How would you like to see
gas prices are?
Show gratitude.
I'd like to see them represent trans people, represent gay marriage, and the fact that right now there's massive inflation. We have a massive homeless problem. The border between Texas and Mexico every day is being flooded with sex trafficking and drug trafficking, and people are dying. I lost one of my friends to a drug overdose. I just had to enter one of my other friends into rehab. So I would like it if our government would spend a little more resources between the border between Texas and Mexico instead of a border between. I couldn't even pick out Ukraine on a map. So for me, that's why. And I know that's you're a fascist because you believe America first.
I don't think you're a fascist.
Do believe that. Because I think, well, I'm not, but I'm saying I think American is more progressive. I think America is more progressive than the Ukraine. I'd like to see them follow in our progress.
That's the thing, right? I think it was yesterday. I believe they signed the Istanbul Accords, which helps like put more protections in place for women who are suffering domestic violence. Right? We're seeing as the more they go in line with EU standards, the more it's going to be mandatory, absolutely mandatory for them to actually like get more in line with certain human rights regulations and tackling corruption. And in Ukraine, corruption is a huge issue. When I talk to Ukrainians, they say their biggest issue with government, corruption in the police force, corruption when it comes to the judges, corruption when it comes to everything, the oligarchs that rule society. And once you upseat those oligarchs, who have control of a lot of the politicians in Ukraine, it's democracy, but it's a fall of democracy because of the corruption. Once you upseat those oligarchs, like Western Europe has been asking Ukraine to do forever if they want to join the EU, then you're going to get a new generation of people filling those power vacuums. Many of them might be queer positive.
I hope they are, and I just don't want to see you die for a corrupt country because I like you, Dylan. You run a good show.
I wouldn't die for a corrupt country. I'd die for my friends here.
They're part of a corrupt country that you just admitted.
But they want to get rid of the corruption. But you can't. But do you think Russia invading Ukraine will make Ukraine more corrupt when most experts agree that Russia's as corrupt or even more?
Doesn't matter if it'll make it more corrupt. It's already corrupt. I mean,
yeah,
you can have a scale
the
of
invasion,
but it's already corrupt.
If your country's corrupt and all your streets and shops are blown up, and your mother got shot by the Russians, and your brother and your sister got raped by the Russians,
I'm hoping that it's going to get less corrupt. But you admit that it's a corrupt country, and you're a nice young man. You shouldn't die for a corrupt country.
I wouldn't be dying for the corrupt country. I'd be dying for the people here who want to live a decent life, not getting shot by Russian soldiers. And you want to know what? The corruption's bad. Getting blown up by a Russian soldier is worse.
I
Like,
mean, I guess
do you
being
think?
dead is
Let
worse
me
than
ask
being
you
a
a question.
victim of corruption.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely,
I'm not gonna argue
absolutely.
that.
Like, if I asked you, like Alex, like America has corruption, right? Right? America,
100%.
100%. Now, if I said to
I
you,
wouldn't die for America, though. I wouldn't go. I mean, I know, we got, CTV. He did go and fight, and he's a veteran. But personally, I wouldn't. I wouldn't risk my life because I do
look,
think there's so much
well,
corruption in the
I think
military-industrial complex. I'm anti-war in that sense.
I think I'm anti-war too. I just want to end this war as quickly as possible, and I think there's only one way to do it. But when it comes to you, Alex, like if a bomb dropped on your
So what?
house,
Fighting more war?
well,
I'm just saying, you want to end the war by fighting more war.
I want to end the war by winning it. I think some wars you have to win.
Exactly.
I
See,
think there's some wars you have to win. Like I don't like when it comes to Hitler, right? Or when it comes to I don't know when the British invaded us 1812. It wasn't as simple as well maybe let's stop fighting because Russian chauvinism is based on this idea that Ukraine doesn't have a right to exist. Dmitry Medvedev very clearly said that Ukraineness is like a mental disorder. It's a disease. The Russian state has a long history of banning the Ukrainian language. The Russian politicians have been very clear that these are types of Russians. These aren't Ukrainians. These are a type of Russian, right? It's much how the Turkish state, which I hate the Turkish government, my God, how the Turkish state discussed the Kurdish people. Oh, they're mountain Turks, and that's how they designated them for years. Ukrainian people had to flee to Austria-Hungary if they wanted to practice their literature and culture and all these things. And so I don't want to see Ukraine return to that. Russia under its 2013 government was more corrupt than it is today. There has been incremental progress, but it needs to go further. I just don't think you can see any progress in Ukraine on corruption or gay people or trans people if the country's being invaded. Like, if I was to ask you, do you know what progress happened in France on gay rights from 1939 to 1941? Not a lot. In fact, it got much, much worse. And the reason why is because it got invaded and gay people were shoved in concentration camps. Like being gay in France in 1939 was bad. Being gay in France under war, getting bombed, and then possibly having your identity targeted, much worse.
Oh, it's pretty bad to say that, you're comparing the Ukraine in 2022 is the same as France in 1939. That's pretty bad.
I don't think it's the exact same. It's more of a comparison, but
You just compared them.
Well, yeah,
You just compared them.
well,
So
I made
could
a
you imagine you're defending a country that's similar to 1939 Paris, where homosexuality was outlawed?
I don't think it's the same. But wait, you're missing one part of the equation here.
Just compared
wait,
it,
let me
though.
finish.
You just
I
compared
did
it.
make a comparison. I made a historical comparison, but the comparison was the aggression.
You compared Ukraine to 1939 Paris. Sorry.
Yeah, the comparison was the aggression and the status of LGBTQ people. That's true, but there's a part of that comparison that is notable. Getting invaded and being bombed and then slaughtered by the Germans was much worse. And any progress that could have been seen for the LGBTQ community was evaporated for 6 years after the Germans invaded.
I think you have a point. I'm just saying it's really kind of sad that you're defending a country that can be compared to the same, sexual liberation of 1939 Paris. It's just sad.
I would have defended America in 2010 I was 9, but if I was of age, I would have defended America in 2010 if it got invaded by China or something, even if it didn't have gay marriage. Because you want to know what? All the cute gay twinks that I want to go out with, I can't go out with them if they're dead, if they've been blown up. So, that's
well, and this is the other thing is I just think war begets more war. I just would like to be, I'm a conflict interventionist. I think as human beings, you run a debate channel, there should be a way to make some sort of agreement where we don't have to kill one another. That's all I'm saying.
I think there's some people who are set on destruction. And I also think, I do think that evil exists in the world. That's something some of my libtard friends might disagree with. And I also believe, and this is the main thing here, that subjugation over liberty is not something that most Americans would like to live under, and that's not only true for Americans. That's a very American principle, but it's also true for Ukrainians. I've interviewed Ukrainians who've had their homes destroyed, and like their husbands are back home, and they fled to Poland. They've got nothing. They got to take care of their kid. They're scared everything. Their husband's gonna die. And I say, do you think Zelensky should compromise with Putin? And they look at me and say, fuck no. Putin should hang himself. Like that's the type of vibe that I get from refugees, the most vulnerable community of the entire war. And internally displaced people. I haven't met a single Ukrainian who's like, maybe we should give them land because they remember Bucha and they're scared of that being repeated in Russian-occupied territory, which they did do in Crimea. I mean, they took Tatar political dissidents, executed them, and they would turn up like 2 weeks later in a river.
Well, I mean, it's just really sad that these people want to hang each other. I love my brother. I'm a vegetarian. I don't even eat meat. I don't even want to kill animals. So I'm different in that sense. I
I
don't think people
I
should die
I think this
for
is a reality of
imaginary
life,
lines.
man. I think it's a reality of life. I mean, I'm not like, I mean, maybe earlier I was a lot more like like peace at all costs, but there's certain things that I don't think people can compromise on for peace, and subjugation is one of those things. I don't believe you can compromise on that. Like if America was invaded tomorrow by China and they said America must submit to this, we're gonna take California, and we're gonna take Washington State, oh we're gonna take fucking Nevada, we're gonna take New Mexico, we're gonna take all this land, I'd say no, we shouldn't compromise. Like the death will be brutal, but a lifetime of subjugation would be worse.
I mean, I don't think we should concede land to China, but I would just hope as, human beings or adults who could, come to some sort of agreement. But I mean, listen, you don't think that's the case. You think we got to put bullets in people's brains to send a message and fight back. That we can
Sometimes
disagree to
absolutely,
disagree.
Sometimes absolutely. Though what is it? The
Sad,
tree of
sad
liberty.
world we live
The
in.
tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants.
No, that's not how it goes.
Why did something close to that? Enough
Yeah,
CTV. It's close enough.
the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Okay, close enough. It's the same principle.
Well, I think a tyrant, as a gay man, I just think it's awfully just hypocritical.
How is it? How is it?
Wait,
Wait. You can say it's stupid.
I know you think they're fighting
But
for
wait, no.
progress.
Let me ask you a question. Wait,
gay rights.
how is it
think it's weird?
hypocritical?
No.
Tell me the hypocrisy.
Because you're out there risking your life for a country that wouldn't even let you marry another
That's
man.
not
and here in America,
hypocrisy.
they would give you that.
Hypocrisy would be if I was like, we shouldn't look at Afghanistan and say they have a right to rule themselves, and Russia should rule Afghanistan, or America should rule Afghanistan, yada yada yada, because they're homophobic. That would be probably hypocritical, right? If I said like America should rule it or something like that. But I don't hold that position.
I guess we have different definitions of hypocrisy, but I just think it's crazy when you see the pride parade, and you see so many Ukrainian flags. Yet if they try to do that same parade in the Ukraine, it wouldn't be recognized.
They have
pride.
wait, they hold pride parades in Ukraine all the time. What do you mean? Even in the military has their own pride vote. Yeah.
They can't get married though, right?
Yeah, they can't do that.
Trans people aren't allowed.
Let me ask you a question. And let's say in 2 years, right? This Roe v. Wade thing keeps going, and now it's gay marriage on the federal level that's no longer certified.
That's not. You can say that's going to happen, but I don't believe.
Wait, no. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, let's say it does. Does that mean now I wouldn't die for my neighbors and the people in my community who
I would hope you wouldn't die. I would hope you wouldn't die for that.
Well, I don't want to die. Of course, all of this is talking about that I've put myself at some level of risk here by coming here, right? And going to like the front line with troops and stuff like that, right? But the reality is that you can't gain any of the things that I want to gain in America or Ukraine or anything if America or Ukraine doesn't exist, and we've all been bombed to smithereens. We all look like Chechnya. If we look what the Russians did to Chechnya, they completely wiped out the cities there and then installed their little tin pot, little Kadarovs and everybody, right? And that is not something I want to see for Ukraine. There are Chechens fighting in Ukraine.
Ukraine's like the lesser of two evils, right? It's like Ukraine's bad and corrupt, but they're just less bad and corrupt than Russia, so you're on their side.
It's not just that, it's also an issue of like sovereignty too. I think a nation has a right to exist if they want to exist, right?
Are there any other countries in the world that are having sovereignty issues?
Yes, and I'd like to go to more places. I'd like to go to northeastern Syria next because I think the Kurds have a right to sovereignty.
I don't think you'll go to Syria. No offense. I think it's a little rougher than probably the Ukraine.
Do you think so?
No, so.
How much you want to bet?
I did. Syria is better off than the Ukraine right now. You can open a Syrian magazine. I think.
No. How much you want to bet I won't go?
Well, I mean, you might go. I just think it's rougher than the Ukraine because from what I see, the media, it looks like Kiev. They're hanging out at the beach.
There are parts of Syria where people are vacationing and they're relaxing. It depends. Like war isn't this like thing that's all the country constantly is being bombed. Definitely, if you're talking a country as big as Ukraine, it's going to be certain areas where the violence is concentrated. And the east of Ukraine is where the vast majority of the violence is concentrated. Now, in Kiev and Lviv, I've been here when the sirens went off. I've been in the Kiev Oblast when bombs have gone off in the distance. I've been in Zaporozhye when the sirens went off. I've been on the Zaporozhye front line. all these areas have different vibes on like levels of danger and odds of dying. But I wouldn't look at Baltimore City if I was in Baltimore and every like I don't know, because Baltimore is a city in my state. I live in Maryland, and I was just relaxing there, and air raid sirens came off, and they said there's a 5% chance a missile is just gonna ram into one of your homes. Good luck, and be like, oh, this is pretty peaceful. Like that is a disturbance to everybody's daily lives. That's a terrible fear you have to live with.
5% of Kiev been bombed.
No. There's a 5% chance that when the sirens go off, like a missile hits like somebody's home or hits somewhere in the city. I'm just throwing out a number. Like when you hear the sirens go off, they're telling you there might be missiles inbound, ballistic or other missiles inbound, or planes are in the air and they're coming towards the city, and you're supposed to go to bunkers. Now Ukrainians, they've kind of gotten used to it, so they just kind of keep going about their daily lives. I do get shoot out of restaurants though, which is absolutely fucking disgusting because I'm outside the restaurant. They hand me my steak in my hands, and I got to eat it out of my hands now because we can't be in the building because of the sirens. But yeah, it's a terrible thing
It's
to
sad.
live with.
I just the last point is it's just sad that you're gonna see and hear all these sirens, but you're never gonna hear any gay marriage wedding bells. It's just sad.
I think one day you will. The
Thanks.
LGBT
No.
like like the vibe you're giving me right now is totally different than the vibe I've gotten from all the queer Ukrainians I've met. You want to know how you really know if there's possibility in any country for progress on gay rights? You want to know how I always know if there is or not? I'll go in the area and I'll open up Grindr on my phone, and if there's enough accounts active, I know one day those people will rise up and they'll get their rights.
I think you have a point. I think there are a lot of homosexuals in every country, even if it is illegal. So yeah, I mean, I guess that gives you hope because there's a lot of guys on Grindr. But I'm just looking at the facts as it states today.
Yeah.
The place that you're defending does not represent you in the same morals and values that you have here in America, and they do not represent trans people.
But I would say in America, America,
I'm saying if you died today and you never saw the future, you would have died for a country that does not represent gay marriage and does not represent trans people or respect.
Yeah, I'm fighting for the dream of a better future. Yeah. Well, I'm not fighting. Okay, I don't want to pretend to be a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm not fucking G.I. Joe, right?
You're a hero to me. You're one of the biggest Twitch heroes on the internet.
Thank you, Alex Primetime 99. Okay, always on the grind.
Carlson's #1 guest.
Tucker Carlson's #1 guest. It's fighting for I think it's more fighting for a better tomorrow, fighting for that ability to have a better future. It's like I remember there's this vibe when you look at a lot of the verbiage towards World War II during D-Day and all this, and you the idea, the general theme, if you look back on it, is this idea. We're fighting for the future generations and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I look at it kind of like that. Ukraine has to fight now for the future generations that will see the end of corruption in Ukraine and the oligarchies hold on public life, fighting for the future that they can integrate with Europe if they want to and have those arrangements. They can see them institute the sign on to the Istanbul Accords and make progress on women's rights, or one day have gay marriage. But in America, I remember having to go before my city council and talking about a legal battle over whether public money should go to adoption centers that don't adopt out to gay people, that my tax dollars go to institutions that won't even service me if I need that help or need that service, which is ridiculous. And so painting it for me, I look at that and I'm not going to say, well, I guess now if America gets invaded, I'm not going to fight for it. I look at that and say, well, I don't like it, but if America doesn't exist, I can't see that progress at all. So I'd like to see that progress. I'd like to fight for that better future.
Be safe.
Thank you, Alex Stein, Primetime 99, #1 show on Tucker Carlson.
#1 guest.
#1 guest.
Get that right.
Guest. One day, you're gonna get your Fox program.
Hey, I maybe I'm meeting with some people in New York. Maybe not a program, but I'll maybe a contributorship and then that. So you'll see.
That'd be interesting. The Alex Stein show. That'd be interesting. That'd be really funny.
It would be funny. All right, Dylan, you rock. Be safe. I mean that, dude. And listen, I respect what you're doing. I'm not even trying to troll you. I'm just, I worry about you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I'm not saying that facetiously. You're just a young man, dude, and I'm not even trying to virtue signal. You just have a lot of life ahead of you.
I'm a young boy in a war zone.
I know you're still a young boy.
I'm a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed deer just trying to make it in a war zone.
CTV will tell you war is not good. It's scary.
It is scary.
The nukes and stuff. Yeah.
I've felt things I never felt before when I was in Zaporozhye. When it comes to When I was in
Stay out of Zaporozhye and go to the beach. So I'm not so scared about you because I got to come back on Hippy Dippy sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys have a good day, okay?
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.